Okay, here we are. Good Woch, everyone. Tonight is a big night. And this week is a big week, obviously. Tonight is a big night. It's Yortzeit of Rabbi Meir Baal. And it's time to ride the coattail of this unbelievable Baal Moifus, Rabbi Meir Baal, one of the 5 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva that established the entire Torah. Who can fathom his greatness and his? When you're talking about in the Talmud, every one of the Amarim that are mentioned in the Talmud was capable to Mechai Mason. Every single one of them. And when the Amoraim were talking about the Tanoim before them, they said if the Tanoim, were akin to angels, were like angels, then we, the Amoraim, are on the level of people. But if you consider the Tanoim as people, the Amoraim said, then we are like donkeys. There's a different statement in each one of these. Like, why do you have to say both of them? It's only when you're talking about angels, you're talking about people that compare to us humans are like angels. They don't have the restraints, that we are bound by. But when you're talking about the Tanoim as people, it says, compared to them, we are like donkeys. What does it mean? It means that there's a quantum difference. It's not just that the Tanoim are bigger, or even a lot bigger, or humongously bigger, or endlessly bigger, whatever you want to call it. When you're saying if Rishonim are like people, we're like donkeys, you have to understand that you can take 1 billion donkeys and they don't make a single person. In other words, it's a quantum leap, like between the species, the way that the animal world is compared to the human world. That's the difference between the Amoraim, that each one that is mentioned in the Talmud could revive the dead. Okay? Just to get a little perspective of who we're talking about. And of the Amoraim and of the Tanoim we're talking about Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, obviously. You're talking about the starting 5, that the entire Am Yisrael, the entire Torah of Am Yisrael began with them. And it says Stam Mishnah. Whenever you have a Mishnah, Rabbi, we put the Mishnahs together. We're never talking about one Stam Mishnah. It does not say who says what. The Tanna Kama says it's followed. That was the Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. I think Rabbi Yochanan said, I don't know if it was him, but one of the great, Yochanan was a Meir Tana was on the cutting, on the splitting, between this and that. It was both this and that. But one of them, I'm not sure that he's the one who said it. He says the reason why I got to my level, maybe it was Rabbi that said that, I'm not sure. Maybe you're going to see. The reason why I was able to reach the Madrega, the greatness and terror that I was able to reach, is because I once saw Rabbi Meir Balanes from behind. From behind, I saw. So how much more I would have been if I just saw him once from the front. That's Rabbi Meir Balanes. His Yortzeit is tonight. It's good to say, Lokad the Meir Aneni, Lokad the Meir Aneni, Lokad the Meir Aneni, 3 times. Give tzedakah, the Yelus of Meir Balanes, ask for whatever it is that you want. A Jew has to be a businessman. In other words, you need to know the value of the currency which is in your hands. You have these Gevaldige Tzadikim. The Meir Balanes said to a goy, just say 3 times, Lokad the Meir Aneni 3 times, and you'll be saved from whatever it is that you want to be saved from. It was a story where, the sister-in-law, when this was captured by the Goyim, and he saved her. Each time he came looking like somebody else, and they weren't able to capture him. Himself, he said, they were able to capture him. So he told his captor, let me go. So he said, well, I'll let you go. They're going to kill me. He says, don't worry about it. Just say, Lokad the Meir Aneni 3 times, and this is what happened. So tonight is his Yortzeit. So you need to be a shrewd businessman. Use this Sichos of Rabbi Meir Balanes tonight, tomorrow, to ask for everything that you need, everything that you want. I mean, we need Haran from here to Timbuktu. Our needs never end. How much we need. Use the Kerch of the Tzadikim. Ride on their coattails. And mainly, of course you can use it for anything. Gashmis, Ruchnias, Parnasa, health, everything. But ultimately, more than anything else, is you should ask to be able to overcome the bad thoughts with good thoughts. That's the main avodas Hashem. So, shtikl nekuda about this week's parsha. So he says, Kili bnei Yisrael avodim avodehem asher rotzesi oisam eretz Mitzrayim ani Hashem Elokeichem. For Am Yisrael are my slaves. Avodehem. They're my slaves that I took them out of Mitzrayim. He says, Bnei Yisrael avodim. One how you call them Bnei, children. And the other hand you call them avodim, call them slaves. And also says as follows. Amazing insight. He says, the fact that you notice about most people eating and drinking and other taivas of the body, urges of the body, it's not called an effort. It's not called an avodah. I mean, how much effort do you need in order to slice into a filet mignon, right? Maybe it's a little tricky to pick up, sushi with your chopsticks because you're not Japanese, but, it's not really like, don't really have to be a rocket scientist or. He says, Tavis Aguf are not considered avodah by us. mitzvahs and masim tovim are called by most people avodah, an effort. This is a thing that takes effort. That is the secret of the exchange of the Ben Melech and Ben Shifcha. We learned that Maisa in Sipurey Maisis. The same thing is exchanged by most people. The Ratzon of the Neshama, which is the true Bas Melech, that's a true. This is called by them avodah. That's effort. That takes overcoming. The Ratzon Aguf, what the body wants, is Prinas Ev. It's considered a slave. By them, it's not called slavery at all. It's not called effort at all. As if Chas v'Shalom, the body was the king, the monarch by the neshama. But in truth, it's exactly the opposite. The neshama is the true king. The body is a slave. The body was created in order to serve the neshama. The very same way that the slave always has to do what the neshama wants. The same thing, the body has to do whatever the neshama wants. To mevatel his ratzon, his urges before the rest of the neshama. It says as follows: as long as there is a smidgen of the tivus of the body, the urges of the body, but a person breaks these tivus. We're not talking about somebody who follows these tivus. He breaks these tivus to do the rest of the neshama, which is the Ratzon Hashem, and he serves the Kadosh Baruch Hu. He works. Even this, Baruch Hashem, even though that this is very, very, very good, Ashalei, because that gets away from him the Sitra Achadik aspect from his avdus, from his slavery, which is the filth of the snake, and he's Zoichet Teheres, and you have freedom from that. As we said, anybody who accepted on himself all Torah, the only one who's free is somebody who's makal himself all Torah. Still, so his avodah is still the avodah of an eved, of a slave. Eved the Kedusha, yes, a holy slave. No, we know Eliezer was a holy slave. Why? Because Sareh Kodesh Baruch Hu is still by him an effort. It has to come with great effort. It's considered by him as a voida. He's tiring himself into this. And because the will of the body, the body's not interested in any of this. What are you talking about? Staying away, night. Waking up Chatzois, going Gavin Vasik, and what are you talking about? The body is not interested. Only what? Okay, so the body is capitulating to the Ratzon of the Neshama. But still, he's Eved Kedusha, slave B'Kedusha. But the main perfection is when you eradicate the body so much to the Neshama until the body acquires the nature of the Neshama. That a person shouldn't have any other type, any other Ratzon except to do what the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants. This is V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha. With two Yitzorim, even the body loves the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And he does the Ratzon Kadosh Baruch Hu out of love. This is bniyot. Then you become a Kadosh Baruch Hu's son. You're no longer a Pchinas Eved. That's the main perfection. Now, we have to understand that even though Rabbi Nosson says, in general, that the situation is that as long as you still have some bodily urge, you're still bevechinas eved kedusha. But we do know that all the aspects are combining all the aspects within them. which means that even within your own madrega, my own madrega, we have certain things in which our bodies already do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, b'simcha. This is what we really want to do. So in that bechina, we already become the children of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And besides the fact that we all the time we're oscillating between being the children of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and slaves of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When we really get, a brand, we get ha'ara, we're b'china son, and we're wavering between this and that. And also talking about the madrega, where you're broken, from the Earth's gravity. You break out of it. That's it. There's no, that by you, a Yetzer Hara is already to go too far, not to go back. The Ikar work is not the Ratzah, like by slave, but Fakert, but coming back, B'shov. Okay. Let's get Bezat Hashem to Sipurey Baal Shemtov for this Motzei Shabbos. It's a very famous story. Once the Talmid Baal Shemtov stood to daven Rosh Hashanah, davening, Talmid Baal Shem. And one of the Talmidim, the little thing, the tabak, the tabak box, the snuff box, he fell to the ground and he bent down to lift it. And his friend that saw it, he was upset. Then he stopped and he fell in the middle to pick up the tobacco from the floor. At the same moment, the Baal Shem HaKadosh saw in his Ruach HaKodesh that disgruntlement that Talmud had has caused that the one who picked up his snuff box from the floor will have to die, lo aleinu, that year. So the Baal Shem Tov did what he did, and he ascended to Elam Yisraelim. And he argued until it was blue in the face, as it were, to save his Talmud from death. Nothing doing. Until Leil Shana Rabbah, he went again to Beth Din Shalmal. And he tined, and he shouted, and he shook all the worlds until he was able to repel, to achieve that in his tefillah, that if this Talmud that caused the anger, the kitrug, will find a schus for that other Talmud, for his friend, that lift up the snuff box, then he will be saved. So the Baal Shem Tov came to this medrash, and he saw that, that the Talmud that was disgruntled, sitting there and learning with Gevaldige Dveikus. So Baal Shem Tov took all his mental faculties away from him. Boom. On the spot. So he couldn't learn. He couldn't learn Dveikus properly. It's not that he became stupid. Just no more Dveikus, no Yeshivatas, no motion. No. So once the Sama saw that he cannot learn Dveikus, Yeshivatas, he started walking here and there, thinking about the greatness of Kodesh Baruch Hu, trying to get himself going again. Then it came into his mind, why is it that in those times it became popular for people to use snuff? And he thought, so you know something? It must be that in this generation, there are some very, very precious souls that cannot be rectified except through the smell, something which is very, very subtle. And he started feeling very remorseful, for being disgruntled about his friend that smelled tabak. Who knows what kind of neshama, what kind of thing his friend, it's talking about Baal Shemtov, talking about like Rabbi Yosef Yaakov Yosef of Polno, you're talking about the Maggid of Mitzrich, you're talking about Pinchas Mikoritz, you're talking about giants, Shebet giants. Who knows what kind of neshama this Talmud, his friends. I just saw him, how can he stop in the middle of davening to lift up the snapback? Well, I don't know what he was doing then. And it was usually the way in the days of the Shom Rabbah, Baal Shem Tov was asking anybody who asked him, what in Shemaim they decreed on him. Because Baal Shem Tov is Ruach HaKodesh, he saw it from beginning to the end to the end, from here all the way up to Amos. And he was in a very, very good mood that day. And everybody was preparing himself some kind of shalom, the Gemara, Poskim, Sarnilim, and he would answer anybody and everybody that day. And that Talmud meant to ask about Shem Tov, why do we shmek tabak? When he asked about Shem Tov, Baal Shem Tov said, you say, what do you think the reason is? So he told him. So Hashem says, okay, reveal the other things that you had in your thoughts surrounding that chiddush, that the neshamas and the tabak, that's the only way they can rectify is by sniffing them. Tell me the rest of your thoughts. And he was Masat, he told how he was finding schus in his chaver. And at that moment, the decree on his chaver that Chas v'Chalil would die that year was nullified. So once it was nullified, the Baal Shem Tov told him this entire thing that he caused to his friend. And he warned him to be extremely, extremely cautious how to judge anybody, especially somebody's Yishamayim, and not to awaken judgments and dinim on him. And B'ezrat Hashem, everything will be good for both him and that person that he is on a kafschos. Okay, Ad Kan, we're my Sipurey Baal Shem for this week. He should grant us the gewaldige week, the Gashmis, the Ruchnis. Let's take a quick look at this week's Sicha, and Sichos Haran. We are holding by Sicha Kuf Chav Daled 124. Rabbeinu asked me, like in a wondering tone, did you ever hear from me Divrei Musa? Telling anybody else. And he says he can't say Divrei Musa because every Musa's word that he's saying is plunged and toiveled and washed with tears. So he cannot actually open up his mouth and say Musa. I don't know how familiar you are with that. When you get older, it becomes like that. You get to speak about certain things and you start crying. Rabbeinu says every single word of Musar by him is washed and drowned in tears. So he can't even start saying Musar Beferish. In the beginning, it was a wondering verse. It says he's not saying Musar. The Fida Atena, according to his old Rabbeinu's words, were huge Musar. It was like a burning fire mamash. But Rabbeinu never actually said Divrei Musa Befurish, like the admonishers, the Mechichim, the Magidim used to say, used to tell the Olam, what do you think, and whatever it is, and cause people to feel the tsar of where am I? Rabbeinu wouldn't do that. Only what? All his words, all his sichos is only about avodas Hashem. And all his words like burning coals. And anybody who was zeicher to hear a dibur from Rabbeinu's mouth, it would get into you like a burning fire. So it's not possible, to describe, not in writing and not by heart, the amazing burning of the kedusha, the sanctity, the holiness of his diburim, when it came out of Rabbeinu's holy and awesome mouth with tremendous kedusha, tremendous purity. Every single dibur of Rabbeinu, even Sichos Chulin, Rabbeinu spoke about, it wasn't Torah, how much more so when Rabbeinu was actually speaking of avodas Hashem, when he was saying Megala Torah, every single dibur, every single word that he said would shine, and glow, burn like tremendously hot fire, like a molten lava. And anybody who would just listen, to really listen, the emes, betmimis, pshitas, every single dibur of Rabbeinu would get into him, mamish, like a burning flame. Everybody, every single one of the people who were listening to him were pulled to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with such gewaltige connection and such unbelievable enthusiasm to Hashem Yisbarach, that Al Pirov, it seems to us in that time when we were standing before the glory of his immense Kedusha, that bevadai we will have no more Bechira anymore. That's it. I mean, we have to be like Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be. It's not possible to separate from Hashem Yisbarach. How much more so, of course, Chas v'Chalil, not to do what Kadosh Baruch Hu wants, even the slightest thing, because the heart was pulled incredibly to Hashem Yisbarach through the Heilige Diburim, the Holy Diburim for Bein HaKadosh. He says it's impossible to imagine, to estimate. Even now, anybody who learns his Sfarim, or learns his Torahs, it's in the Sfarim of Rabbeinu, that if you just look at them, betmimis, pshitas, the vada, his heart, would be inflamed to Hashem Yisbarach, because every single word of Rabbeinu HaKadosh is kegachal le'esh, like a burning embers. To have a shlikul negia in this inyan. On Thursday night, in the Breslau Medrash, we're learning tournament tests. And Rav Nosson explains, we spoke about it once before, that whenever it is that a person does, not only just does a mitzvah, but whenever somebody like us has a good notion, like, why am I like this? Why am I not doing what Kadosh Baruch Hu wants me to do? Why am I addicted to my bad habits? Even though I can't really do anything about it. Seemingly I can't do anything about it, but that's kind of a notion. When you are going to the Besmedrash of the Tzaddik, when you're going to Rabbeinu Besmedrash, you think, oh, what's the big deal? You can go wherever you want to go. But in Rabbeinu Besmedrash, all the people, especially the small ones, they all come, they all bring their little tiny good retzinas. And Rabbeinu HaKadosh puts all these retzinas together. And what it creates from them is something called Isaruta del Tata, an awakening from below. We spoke about it once before. The reason HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world is to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Malchus. The only way that that can be done is if we are awakening from below to the best of our ability. Adrabah, if the beginning comes from awakening from above, that creates the kalipos, that creates the shattering the vessels, that creates the kalipot. It's an unbelievably strong chizuk to people who feel, what am I? Well, it's just like okay, Reb Chaim Kanievsky, whoever the God or whatever we're talking about, okay, him, but me, like he says that's the meaning of Yaakov Avinu. When Yaakov Avinu went to Lavan, and he says that he passed the Makom Beis Hamikdash, and then it got into his mind: is it possible that I passed the place that Avram and Yitzchak davened, and I didn't daven there? Immediately, when he had it in mind, and he turned back, the Makom Beis Hamikdash jumped to him. Rashi says, like the place came to him. Yaakov Avinu discovered at that particular point in time that his Isarusa del Tasa, the fact that he was awake and says, how is it possible I didn't daven there? Immediately it got Isarusa del Eila, the place jumped to him. And he went to sleep there. He went to sleep at that particular place. And what did he see? Here's a sulam, there's a ladder that is standing from the ground all the way to the heavens. A ladder means you're going up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu one step at a time. You're going up one step at a time. And here you see the angels of Hashem, oilim v'yardim ba. That they're going up the ladder and down the ladder. The Malach Elokim oilim, this is what happens when you awake from below. He says, you know something? I really wish I could learn Torah. I really wish I'd get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I really wish I could do that. That creates the angels that are going up the ladder. Automatically, it causes the angels to come, to come down from above. Yaakov Avinu went to sleep there. But Yalom Makomahu means that he went down all the way to the level of our level, of the lowest level of them all. It says that was the night he saw, because Avraham and Yitzchak, the Beis Hamikdash Rishon and Asheni, Yaakov Avinu is the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi. We once said the tzaddik, the Beis of the tzaddik is where the tzaddik takes all your good points and puts them in a safe. And all the good points come together. It causes Tarusa Del Tata, an awakening from below, to bring an awakening from above, the way that Yaakov Avinu was doing it in Mokom HaMikdash. Yaakov Avinu saw there's going to be a bitter, long galus before the Beis Hamikdash will be built, B'ezrat Hashem. He saw the two B'tei Mikdashim, both the first one, the Mishkan, and Beis Hamikdash, Sheni, they'll all both be destroyed. Yaakov Avinu was poiled when this chus that the third Beis Hamikdash will never ever be destroyed again. And the way he was doing it is by realizing that the tzaddik needs to go. Yaakov went to sleep. He was was going down. The bigger the tzaddik is, the lower he can go, to the lowest people. The Masakin people with his shmek tabak, when he was, like snuffing the snuff to the Masakin the shamas. But it all depends upon us coming to the tzaddik the besmedrash. It's a gewaltige Sache to be a Bresler. But it's quite a different thing when you go to the tzaddik's besmedrash, where you have other people who are mischazik in the tzaddik. Because all the avodah, all the tikkunim, everything that you do, the sarusa del tato, everything is done with the koyach of the tzaddik emes. Baruch Hashem, tonight we're already starting the Hilula of Rabbi Meir Balanes. Allah the Meir Aneni, Allah the Meir Aneni, Allah the Meir Aneni. To be able to get out of my own addictions and shtuyot and nonsense. At Hashem, together with Klal Yisrael. You know, it's like, it's absolutely amazing that on one hand, we know that the person needs to leave this world. And what needs to be, the judgment, once that happens, is an extremely serious business. You can see the kind of dread that you get when a policeman stops you in the street or tells you to pull over. What can you do? How much more so when a person leaves this world? While later, when you see people in the hospital, everybody's serious there. Nobody's joking. Like, oh, okay. No, everybody's very serious. Tremendous. And still, I walk around in this world as if, how are the Yankees doing? I'm still interested. Somebody came I told you that the elderly man came to the Kotzker Rebbe, and he said, my mechutin, my son's father-in-law told me this. He came to the Kotzker Rebbe, he was an elderly yid, and he said to him, the Olam says there are 3 periods in life of a person. There's a kina, it's a parallel to the 3 big taivas. The Mishnah says, a kina, v'ataiva, v'akoved, they get a person out of this world. Kina, jealousy. Taiva, we know what taiva is. And the covet, says the first period of childhood, it's reigned by kina. If you have children, try to give one child something and not give it to another. You'll never hit the end of it. That's the level of kina. Then, of course, person gets to marry, whatever it is, that's the level of the period of taiva. And then when a person gets older, then, okay, you finish the taiva, now you want to get a little covered. Taiva is not that interesting anymore, but you want some covered. So this person came to the Kotzker Rebbe and he told him, I'm not a young man anymore, but I don't have any Mashiach to cover. Yeah, I don't feel, doesn't appeal to me. Kotzker Rebbe told him, that's because you're still in the stage of taiva. You hear it and you laugh, but it's not funny. You think, okay, somebody was once, somebody said he went on the beach and he saw a person in his 90s walking. And a woman walked out of the way and he turns around to look at her. Over 90. Even if the body cannot do anything anymore, the mind is still in the taiva. How much do we need? And we need, there's judgment at the end of this whole thing. We're all be zoicha. to come closer, Rabbeinu be'emes, 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 and to finally, so the light should enter our mind, how much we need to come to him, how much we need to go to his besmedrash, how much we have to, go around with his people. They're not the coolest people, let me tell you something. They're much cooler people somewhere else. But that's the best medrash of the tzaddik, where the tzaddik puts together all the Kodesh, not only the people who are there, but this, but also all the people in the world, comes inside of Bismedrash. Go to Bismedrash as much as you can. And over there, your return, we say, there's the batin in Rosh Hashanah, everybody comes and everybody multiplies everybody. It becomes like immense amount of schusim. Bezat Hashem Hashem shebzei mizakayas. בזכות מאיר בעל הנס, בזכות רבי שמעון בר יוחאי, ובזכות בעזרת השם, to חיים טובים ומסוקים, shall be healthy, shall be wealthy בעזרת השם, whatever it is that we need בעזרת השם, without missing anything. And burn up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, tremendous ahava, and do what we need to do, Rabbi Shalom. Time is flying by, man. Whew. Bezat Hashem, Monday night we will meet together and learn Sipurey Maisias Bli Neder. Should be matzliach with everything that you do, Bezat Hashem.